I have been one acquainted with the night. I have walked out in rain and back in rain. I have outwalked the furthest city light. I have looked down the saddest city lane. I have passed by the watchman on his beat and dropped my eyes, unwilling to explain. I have stood still and stopped the sound of feet when far away an interrupted cry came over houses from another street, but not to call me back or say goodbye. And further still, at an unearthly height, one luminary clock against the sky proclaimed the time was neither wrong nor right. I have been one acquainted with the night. Hello once again, I'm Don Jackson with the words of Robert Frost. I too am acquainted with the night. I ran across this in a past issue of the Reader's Digest. It was written by a policeman from Dufresne, Manitoba, who was also acquainted with the night. His name is Douglas A. Cross, and this was featured in Beat Poet in the April 1997 issue. He writes, "Since getting my first job at 16, I have worked at night. I have been a police officer for many years and have seen 2 a.m. from many different viewpoints. Sometimes I have rejoiced that others did not share the view, but more often I have wished that they could. And since my parents let me, I have been staying up at night just to experience it. One of my fondest memories as a youngster is a night I sat in a lawn chair in the front yard and watched the city go to bed. Magical things happen at night. People climb into bed, trading their active lives for whatever awaits them in sleep. Cars, buses, trucks, and bicycles join in their own peculiar slumber. Fewer aircraft disturb the skies. The city is quiet. The countryside is dark. It's said that nature sleeps, but it doesn't. The trees sway and rustle and creak in a different dance. Insects wander. Some flowers close, others are still there for the night wanderer to see. And there is always light. Sometimes it's so low that my eyes take a long time to adjust. And then they can make out only enough to tell me I am putting my feet on something. The grass seems to be alive. It whispers secrets. I wish I could understand what it is saying." End quote. Even though the year is winding down and the nights are now cold, there is still much to enjoy from the night's changing moods. The poet Shelley mused, "The soul of man is alive only in the nighttime." That quote was contained in a Saturday Night Review article from August 21st, 1984 by Brooks Atkinson, who went on to say, "For the imagination travels farthest when distance, no longer limited by the visible landscape of the day, extends into the universe of stars that light celestial lamps millions of miles off through the dark corridors of space." I shall remember while the light lives yet, and in the nighttime I shall not forget. Algernon Charles Swinburne in Erosion. Here are some ancient thoughts about the night from a very old mystical encyclopedia. Night has always been synonymous with darkness, death, evil, winter. This is the dream significance. If it's a clear night, it bodes well for happiness, success, and if it's a dark night, then it's bad luck. Night is symbolized by the bat, black mice, crescent moon, the poppy, the musical tone D, and stars. Night is personified by Artemis, Diana, Morpheus, Somnus. A woman draped in dark blue, powdered with stars. In light darkness myths, night was portrayed as a lustful female who overcomes or ravishes the sun. Among Central American Indians, night is a place of repose. In Egyptian mythology, night is the mother of all things. Sun worshippers believed the soul of the dead passed into a division of night where the privileged rode on the ship of Ra. More of what we know of the night, and more of what our ancestors believed. In Hebrew lore, night symbolizes adversity, uncertainty, tumult. According to the Spanish mystic St. John of the Cross, night is the condition of the soul where one attains union with God. You might remember it was Dracula in the movies who said, "Listen to them, children of the night, what music they make." Litawish wrote, "Night is the blotting paper for many sorrows." And there are even plants that open only at night. The night-blooming cereus, which means, in the language of flowers, transient beauty. The nightmare, in folklore, an evil spirit which oppresses people during sleep. Nightshade is the January 23rd birthday flower. It is symbolic of death, obscurity, skepticism, sorcery, witchcraft. In the language of flowers, nightshade means your thoughts are dark. And in the book A Dictionary of Greek and Roman Mythology by Michael Stapleton, he writes, according to Hesiod, dreams were the daughters of night. The idea of a god of dreams is much later and usually attributed to Ovid, who named 3 sons of sleep. As the writer goes on to say, the first one is Morpheus, who sends dreams of human form. Eleanor Chipp wrote, "I heard the wild geese flying in the dead of the night, with beats and wings and cry. I heard the wild geese flying, and dreams in my heart sighing followed their northward flight. I heard the wild geese flying in the dead of night." F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote, "In a real dark night of the soul, it is always 3 o'clock in the morning." The poet Rod McEwen, quoted in an interview with USA Today's Craig Wilson, said this about his success, and I quote, "It's more important to me if one line helps somebody get through the night." End quote. There are those who feel their loneliness in the night, in the dark. This is called Nights Without Hope, and featured in world poetry. Like nights without hope, I walk the streets alone. Before your shuttered window, I spend sad hours. How I long to meet you, to find old joys again. Again to give you kisses, so black despair will leave. But who knows where you wander, there in some foreign land. I wonder if you think of me, or suffer for someone else. In in that mystical encyclopedia, the significance of a night owl could mean a prowler. Dixie Wilson wrote, "I like the fall, the mist and all. I like the night owl's lonely call and wailing sound of wind around. I like the gray November day and bare dead boughs that coldly sway against my pain. I like the rain. I like to sit and laugh at it and tend my cozy fire a bit. I like the fall, the mist and all." Alexander Blok, a Russian poet and dramatist, sets the mood. A gleam in the window, a porch without light. A harlequin whispers alone with the night. The snow in the streets is whirled and tossed, round and round in faltering dance, and here a hand is offered me, and there a smile in someone's glance. And there with the light one teases and flashes, so often in winter night disguises, a shade, a shape that now appears but soon departs and wholly vanishes. I mentioned that the night owl could mean a prowler. The night raven could mean solitude. Edgar Allan Poe wrote of a prowler of sorts and a raven as black as night. This poem is so appropriate for this time in the year. Once, upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. "Only this, and nothing more." Distinctly I remember, it was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow, vainly I had sought to borrow from my books surcease of sorrow, sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore, nameless here forevermore. And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before, so that now, to still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating, "'Tis some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door, some late-night visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. This it is, and nothing more." Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. "Sir," said I, "or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore, but the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping at my chamber door, that I scarce was sure I heard you. Here I opened wide the door. Darkness there, and nothing more. Deep into that darkness peering, long I stood there wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. But the silence was unbroken, and the stillness gave no token, and the only word there spoken was the whispered word, "Lenore?" This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word, "Lenore." Merely this, and nothing more. Back into the chamber turning, all my soul within me burning, soon again I heard a tapping, somewhat louder than before. "Surely," said I, "surely that is something at my window lattice. Let me see then what thereat is, and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment, and this mystery explore. 'Tis the wind, and nothing more." Open here I flung the shutter, when with many a flirt and flutter, in there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obeisance made he, not a minute stopped or stayed he, but with mien of lord or lady, perched above my chamber door. Perched upon a bust of Pallas, just above my chamber door. Perched, and sat, and nothing more. Some excerpts from The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe, and thereby hangs quite the tale. Thomas Moore describes what could be a similar waking nightmare that disturbed Edgar Allan Poe's reverie. They made her grave too cold and damp for a soul so warm and true, and she's gone to the lake of the dismal swamp, where all night long by a firefly lamp she paddles her white canoe. And her firefly lamp I soon shall see, and her paddle I soon shall hear. Long and loving our life shall be, and I'll hide the maid in a cypress tree when the footstep of death is near. Away to the dismal swamp he speeds. His path was rugged and sore, through tangled juniper, beds of reeds, through many a fen where the serpent feeds, and man never trod before. And when on the earth he sank to sleep, if slumber his eyelids knew, he lay where the deadly vine doth weep its venomous tear, and nightly steep the flesh with blistering dew. And near him the she-wolf stirred the brake, and the copper snake breathed in his ear, till he starting cried from his dream awake, "Oh, when shall I see the dusky lake, and the white canoe of my dear?" He saw the lake, and a meteor bright quick over its surface played. "Welcome," he said, "my dear one's light." And the dim shore echoed for many a night the name of the death-cold maid. Till he hollowed a boat of the birchen bark, which carried him off from shore. Far, far he followed the meteor spark. The wind was high, and the clouds were dark, and the boat returned no more. But oft from the Indian hunter's camp, this lover and maid so true are seen at the hour of midnight damp to cross the lake by a firefly lamp and paddle their white canoe. If you listened to my former radio show on any sort of a regular basis, then I think it's safe to say that you too were acquainted with the night. This is by an unknown writer. God made the night, but he could not have known about those of us who waited for the dark, to feel the first moments of privacy we had known all day, or to use that black secrecy to mutter curses at the day's faults. He also fashioned the sun and choreographed the ballet called Sunset. But he didn't anticipate the agony that spectacle would create among those of us who counted the day past a loss, for it brought them not one step nearer the goals sought. When he breathed out the world's music, he planned joy. But again we fail him when we wince and fight tears and denounce the beauty of it, only because there is no beauty in the music of our souls. God planted love here, and it grows where hate had flourished, or where it is scarcely recognized. He planned on using it like a Band-Aid on the hurts of the heart, but it won't stick on some of us, or it washes with salt tears, or we claim not to need its protection. Isn't it a marvel he doesn't despair of us? Good night, sweet dreams. I'm Don Jackson.